What's up everybody, Matt Nuzzo. We are here at Real to talk to you about the Core XR6. Really excited about this kite. The XR series has been a crowd favorite here at Real, and to understand why this kite is so awesome and why it's our #1 selling kite at Real is to understand how we're picking kites for the Real rental shop. So I'm gonna kind of back it up a little bit, tell you a little bit about our company. This is not gonna be a short review. I'm sorry in advance. Get your beer and popcorn because it's gonna be a little while. So we pick kites for the rental shop by choosing what kites work best. And to do this, we will take, a new kite comes out, we put a couple kites in the rental shop, and we test them out. Our coaches test them, our staff tests them. We've got over 100 people that work here, and 2/3 of those people are kiteboarders. So we have a full range from the very, very beginner and zero to hero testing a kite to a pro that's taking that kite out and trying it out. So with that range of input, as we're using those kites and we're flying those kites, we start to see, hey, this is what's working, this is what's not working. I will tell you that our coaching staff is hypercritical about kites of which they're gonna teach on. The reason they're hypercritical is they wanna make sure that their students are having the best experience possible, so having the best kites and to do that is really what they're picking. So we continue to evolve our rental shop gear based on the coaches' feedback and our staff feedback. And the XR series came to us, we started out with Core with the XR3, and it was a very different shape kite, a very different style of kite, and people were a little slow to adopt the twist release, the high Y on the bar. There's a bunch of different things, like it was more of a bow style kite, which was, not in vogue at that time. So, we started with that kite and then people started taking on lessons and they're like, man, the wind range on this kite's sick, right? And then some coaches would go out and boost on it. And then the XR4 came with the new Exotech material, leading edge material. And then the XR5 came and it was like, holy cow, until all of a sudden, all the kites in our rental shop, they're going out. The first ones that go out in the morning for coaching, XR5. The first kites that are going out for personal sessions in the slick, XR5. The first kites that are going out, for any session at any time was the XR series. So here it lands us at the XR6. Now the Core and the XR series has completely dominated the school and the rental shop because they work so well. They've got a huge, huge wind range. They boost super, super high. They're crazy durable and last. So the XR series, because they're so popular with our staff, because people love them so much, they're used like 5-to-1 over any other kite in the rental shop. At the end of their time when we turn those kites over, those kites feel better, they're crispier, they fly better than anything else that's been used a fraction of the amount. So really, the Core guys have just done an amazing job making a product that's suitable for everyone out there. So let's talk a little more about the XR6 right here. So when I'm starting with the XR6, I want to talk to you about their design plan and some of the materials involved and some of the unique things of which they're doing. So design plan, this kite holds the world record on Woo for the highest jump. It's 32 meters, which is insanely high. For all you Americans out there, that's like 100 feet, and if you jumped 100 feet off the water, everyone on the video sphere out there would be having to change their diaper when they came in from their session. But 32 meters is nuts. So they start out and say, we're the highest jumping kite on the market, we want to stay there. So, okay, cool. Highest jumping kite on the market, achieved, right? So you can make a kite that jumps high, that jumps super high, but making a kite that jumps high and is controlled and controllable, that is what is making the Core kite unique, the XR kite unique. The XR6, the main thing that they have changed is making it more user-friendly. So people are like, hey, what's changed? What's different? What's this, that, and the other, right? What's new and unique about this kite is A, they didn't screw it up, which a lot of people, they have to redesign something to kind of start over and start fresh. Interestingly, talking to Frank, the designer, he makes a totally wild, out of the box, like no input kite, and he makes a variation of the previous version. And then they see, hey, what one's winning, what one's working, until they come up with the newest design. And that's where we are here with the XR6. So the things of which they changed and they wanted to make, and our feel for what they've added to this kite is a lot more user-friendly. I mean, we're teaching straight beginners at 0 to hero, so it's pretty user-friendly to start, but really where that comes out is the light wind, low wind, underpowered performance. So low wind performance, for a beginner, you're flying underpowered. So that kite's gonna be more stable in the air. XR6, more stability right out of the box, right? So underpower conditions, it's gonna translate to kite staying over your head. That's not only great for a beginner, but how about all you foilers out there, right? The XR5 was pretty punchy for foiling. Like, it had a lot of heavy power and it was a little unstable overhead, whereas this one has more steady power input, but it's also much more stable, so it makes foiling a lot better and a lot easier. Okay, so the XR6 here, you're gonna have more user friendliness, which coming to boosting, that's what you want. You can make a kite that maybe jumps higher, but is like just terrifying, like you can't know where you are, it rips you off the water, whereas the XR6 is just so user-friendly. You pull the trigger and it just pulls you off the water very easily, and you go up and you just don't come down. You keep going. When you sheet in, flaps down, come down for a landing. Really freaking amazing. Just so awesome, that feel. The XR jump is unlike any other out there, okay? Other stuff that they've improved on this is the power. So you have more low-end power, but less grunt, okay? So that's kind of a weird thing. Like, how can you have more low-end power but less grunt, right? The XR6 has more low-end power, meaning that you're gonna get up and you're gonna fly and be able to go upwind and less wind, but you don't have that center of the bar grunt. Like, you know, the XR5 would kind of force you and pull you forward, whereas this just has that real smooth power delivery, right? And you also feel it throughout the entire bar, okay? So you felt like it was really kind of grunty in your center of your hands, and then the bar end was kind of spongy. Where now it has this buttery, smooth turn feel, but you still have that low end power. Actually, we found a little more low end power than previous versions. So that's the difference. What's new? So main thing, didn't screw it up. Second thing, higher jumping, easier to use, more user-friendly, way better for light wind performance and foiling. So also that more user-friendly buttery feel is better for surf too. So you're kind of hitting, you know, they're expanding out the range of this kite where it's always worked well in all categories, but now in the fringe categories, foil, surf, all these different things, is getting way better. And boosting, it keeps that high mark, but it just makes it easier so you have more confidence, can then go higher. Okay, so some of the design characteristics of this kite that are totally unique, the material, okay? So the big thing is how many lines in the ripstop now, right? Core was the first one that came out with this Core-Tex material, triple ripstop, right? So now there's other materials that are, you know, how many different, you know, 2 lines here, 3 lines there, 4, like they're going totally nuts. Talking to Frank, the designer, the secret sauce is not only the number of, is not the number of lines in the ripstop, but is the coating. Okay, it's all about the coating on the material. This is a proprietary material which Core is using, and this coating means that the kite is going to have that crispy feeling. Again, going back to our used rental shop kites that are just absolutely hammered, hundreds of sessions, ridden hard, smashed in the water, you know, just completely like brutalized every single day, and then taken out for massive boost sessions. You take that thing out at the end of the season, it still feels good. It still has this crisp kind of sheen to it. Unlike most other kites feel like dusty and powdery, and it's like, how is that possible, right? How does that do, how does it not do that? The other thing is that they're designing the profile and the plan on this thing called Surf Plan, some like tech thing, but then they have to basically take it off of that and completely redesign the panel layout because they want the kite to stretch right. As you're building out these kites, right? You know, hey, the kite works great, you know, day 1, day 2. Well, what about day 300, right? Most of you users out there aren't gonna, you know, you put a kite through 300 uses. We put a kite, every one of these kites through 300 uses at least. You know, and, you know, 300 uses, what's gonna happen is the canopy is gonna start to stretch, right? The canopy is gonna stretch out and really kind of give. And so what they've done in a couple of things, you see here, there's no dacron across the trailing edge, right? So this allows the trailing edge to stretch at the same level as the leading edge, right? The design plan looks like all symmetrical and stuff, and there's nothing kind of out of place. So as this kite is stretching, you know, you're gonna get some more space in between these 2 struts here, but it's gonna stretch uniformly, so your kite after 300 sessions is still gonna feel and perform like it did your first session, which is unheard of in the kite market. A couple other things here is the type of dacron in which they're using, right? So they've got this you know, high tech, they call it Exotech dacron. It's a proprietary dacron to them, and it allows them to make the frame super rigid. And that's one of the great things about the XR is that you can get crazy powered up on this kite and have full steering when you're fully depowered on the kite. So full depower on the kite, you still have complete steering. So it gives you that massive usable wind range. And part of that is because they're using this dacron, which is proprietary to them, and really, really solid material. So in doing that with the XR6, what they did is they changed how the strut attaches to the leading edge because they want the profile of the kite you know, to not deform as that's going through this, you know, big wind range. So they made the strut configuration different. And again, looking at the design characters, if I laid out the two kites, it'd be hard to tell the difference. Like XR5, XR6, I could see the difference because the hoses are different, like how they change the inflation hoses. There's definitely quite a big difference on that. But that hose design change of how the inflation hoses is based on the struts diameter changing and profile changing to make sure you have this complete rigid frame throughout the kite. So when we are looking at this kite is going to hold its shape through all purposes. So that's the other thing, is the shape of the kite, right? So the shape of the kite is changing as you're flying it, right? So fully sheet in, this kite's going to be real flat and have a bow style shape to it, right? When you are fully sheeted out, the wingtips come down, it has a much more of a C-shape arc, okay? So it's basically two totally different kites, whether it's fully sheeted in, or fully sheeted out, or fully sheeted in. You're gonna have a flat kite or a more arc kite. So the way they can do that is with their bridle system, right? And a lot of people, you know, there was a while there, you know, back in the mid 2000s where the pulleys were all seizing up on kites because they were using bad pulleys. I've never had the pulleys on our core kites mess up or seize, but the reason they have these pulleys here is to change that profile throughout the sheeting range. Okay, and what that's gonna do is, if anyone that's ever jumped an XR, when you jump an XR and you come in for a landing, you sheet in, it's like having flaps because the kite flattens out and really just settles you down, right? You know, but then if you're sheeting out, you're gonna have more arc, which is gonna change the turning radius, right? So you basically have this kite that has this massive wind range, lots of loft, lots of upwind performance. You're like, how is this possible? How does this kite actually do all of this different things? And you walk around our staff and you say, hey, what's your favorite kite? What's your favorite kite? What's your favorite kite? No question, everyone's gonna say the XR. So when you're coming here and you're looking at the XR6, this is a long history of design. They change their designs, Core changes their designs every 2 years, okay? So it's not like they're rushing to get the next thing, or if something that they didn't really work out right, then they can change it quickly in the next year. They have to make sure that this kite is rock solid because it's gonna be around for 2 years. And it's not only one size, it's all sizes. So each size is uniquely different and has different design characteristics to that. Also, each size kite is still flying off that same 52 centimeter bar. So a 5 meter kite and a 19 meter kite is using the same bar, which I just got explained why, and it has to do with the bridle, where the bridle is attaching and all these different things, and the kites from a 5 to a 19 are very different shape, even though they kind of look similar, to make all that work. But it's like, how is that possible, right? How does that happen? You know, but it works, and each kite works really well with that one size bar in that size shape. So finally, we're gonna come down to the quality of craftsmanship. So the Core guys are all kiteboarders. They love kiteboarding. They've been working with this factory in Sri Lanka. They were the first company to start working with this factory in Sri Lanka to make kites. And so they started making kites with them in 2004. And from that have evolved, and they basically were starting at scratch. They were not like taking someone else's stuff. They're like, hey, how do we do this? How do we do this? So they basically worked with the factory for a long time, the same people, and they're like, we're like family now with those people. We have priority with their manufacturing. They treat their employees very well. Everyone goes in there, they're very confident in their job, and they're confident in making a high-end quality material. So you put the best materials and the best design in the hands of a poor manufacturer, you're gonna have a poor product. But every single XR you get off of the line is gonna be high-end quality control, and it's going to be made sure to make sure it's going to last, and there's going to be no issues. Of all the uses that the XRs get, this is the kite we have the least problems with. So, you know, when you're buying an XR6, you're buying the highest performance you can get in a very user-friendly package, right? So if you're a beginner, you can get this kite and not grow out of it ever. You can get a kite that is going to last a long time and hold its value. So when you resell this kite in a few years, you're gonna get a ton of value back out of that kite because the kite's such a good quality product and it works so well that people love them and they want them. 3 is that you will never be held back by this kite. You can hit all the different ranges from foil to super high boosting to just cruising and riding upwind. You're never gonna be held back with this kite. So the XR is truly that one kite does it all kite in the market. Has some amazing design features, it's amazing quality, and if you're not out there riding an XR, something is wrong with you. You want more reviews, you go to realwatersports.com or give us a call to the shop if you need to tech out some more. You can tell I love to do that. Give us a call, 252-987-6000.